President Obama shook hands with Raul Castro at the Nelson Mandela Memorial earlier in South Africa, and right-wing media is completely up in arms about this. And let's start with the CNN clip of Christiane Amanpour sounding very excited that, or at least surprised. Excited, I think, maybe a bit of an assumption, but certainly surprised and interested at President Obama shaking hands with the Cuban leader, Raul Castro. Take a look at this.
Now, there have been a lot of questions raised about security here, and before I came on, we were walking around and talking to security officials.
Castro, he's shaking hands with Raul Castro.
As Christiane points out, President Obama just shook hands with Raul Castro from Cuba. Now,
Dilma
Christiane,
Rousseff of Brazil.
what does that say as a
It
gesture?
says that this is a moment of reconciliation for Mandela, and President Obama is doing the diplomatic thing. He's not just going to walk by and ignore these people who are there, and they're all in a line. He's kissing now the UN Secretary General.
Okay, so immediately the claims start from the right, Lewis. This proves President Obama is a communist. This proves President Obama supports the Castro regime in Cuba. I have to tell you, first of all, I think it is absolutely worthless to listen to these nonsense claims from the right about the handshake. President Obama went down the line and shook hands or kissed on the cheek everybody that was in that group of people. This is a sign of respect towards Nelson Mandela and to the event. It's absurd to start making allegations. If you're going to do that, then what are we to say about George W. Bush holding hands with the Saudi royal family, right? I mean, it's absurd to be going down this line.
It is pretty stupid. I mean, the president's going to be civil. What kind of message does it send to the world if the president refuses to shake one person's hand in this line, acting like a 5-year-old? I don't think that makes much sense.
No, but let's actually explore a little further, because this is a good opportunity to talk about the embargo, the trade embargo with Cuba. I am not a defender of Cuba, and I don't excuse or explain away any of the things that Cuba has done, continues to do, the detention of the American Gross, Alan Gross, I believe his name is. I don't do any of that. But what I do, Lewis, is compare and contrast the political situation with Cuba to that with many other countries around the world. And we cannot ignore the reality that Cuba is the only country that is embargoed by the United States. There are no other countries that have this trade embargo with Cuba. 4 decades of this trade embargo, dating back to the Cold War, have achieved very little in terms of changing the politics of Cuba, forcing democracy and elections. However, the trade embargo has worsened the living conditions of those in Cuba, and it is hurting American businesses as well. American businesses, if allowed to do business with Cuba, would have more customers. They would make more money, which, by the way, would increase the tax revenues for the federal government. In other words, it is fiscally conservative and pro-business to do business with Cuba. It will help the Cuban citizens, who certainly I don't think we want to hurt. It will help Americans and American businesses. And we're also spending money on enforcing this embargo with Cuba. There are many other countries where governments are not freely elected, Lewis, and the U.S. does business with them. Am I defending those countries? Am I defending Cuba? No. I'm saying there's an incredible double standard.
There is, of course, a lot of those countries. Well, what's at stake? Obviously, lots of natural resources. But I mean, if you want a country to grow and to mature, you have to open things up. And I think this needs to end.
How is it fiscally conservative to have this embargo? It just doesn't make any sense. And remember, the Cold War is over. The Cold War has been over for a long time. Cuba poses no threat to the U.S. at all. And the travel embargo and the trade embargo, at this point, we just have to be more consistent. That's really the point we have to consider here.